Zoro's fight versus King may have teased an Enma-Zoro fusion that will appear later in the series. If this is the case, then that wouldn't be the first time that the anime has spoiled manga readers. Remember, Kyoshiro's identity was 90% spoiled in a One Piece opening. There was a black silhouette standing with the scabbards who had a facial structure that looked exactly like Kyoshiro. The next scene in the opening then shows Kyoshiro crying after showing the black silhouette. The reason it was thought to be a spoiler is because the manga hadn't shown one last scabbard yet, and nobody knew what happened to him. Later, us fans found out that Kyoshiro was indeed Denjiro. So, it wouldn't be a first for the anime to tease something that manga readers haven't seen just yet. I know animation studios sometimes don't communicate with the author, but in Oda's case, I would protest that. Oda is known to get actively involved when his adaptations that are being produced. For instance, Oda was heavily involved in the Netflix live-action adaptation of the series. He served as an executive producer and worked closely with the show's creators to ensure that the adaptation stayed true to the original manga. Oda's involvement was a significant factor in the production, as he provided input on the script, character portrayals, and overall direction of the series. So, with that being said, I'm pretty sure if Oda wanted the Toei animators to put an Easter egg in the anime, they would do it with ease. Now that I have filled you guys in on a bunch of information, let's dive into the most important topic. Who was the skeleton Zoro saw, and was this impact frame a future tease at a Zoro demon-like form? Well, first, let's go back to the end of the Zoro versus King fight. Zoro's infamous words after beating King are, "I'll become the king of hell." The real mythological Enma is the ruler of the underworld, also known as Hell. So when Zoro said that, he was referencing the mythological Enma. But I have an interesting theory. What if that was Enma who made Zoro say the words, "I'll become the king of hell"? Zoro has never once shown interest in being the king of anything, so why would he randomly start now this late in the story? I believe this was 100% Enma influencing Zoro's behavior during this scene. This wouldn't be the first time I've said a sword has influenced its wielder's behavior. Shiryu of the Blackbeard Pirates used to be a jailer at Impel Down. Impel Down is a prison that keeps some of the darkest criminals locked up. I highly doubt they would let a crazy sword-wielding psychopath work there. I believe Shiryu was normal at first, but somewhere down the line, he obtained his sword Ryu. I believe Ryu was the influence behind Shiryu's murderous actions. As soon as Shiryu was released during the Impel Down arc, he cut down the guards and then stated, "It's been a long time since my blade has tasted blood." Just like how Zoro's blade Enma wants haki as a source of power, I believe Shiryu's blade wants blood as a source of power. The more the swordsman feeds the curse of their blade, the more synchronized he or she becomes with the blade. A good example to back this up would be Mihawk. I don't know the curse of Mihawk's blade, but I do know the name of his blade is Yoru. Yoru in English translates to night. I think Mihawk and his blade have developed a synchronized persona because Mihawk actually resided at Kuraigana Island before joining the Cross Guild. This is an island that never seems to see an ounce of daylight. I just find it very odd that Mihawk's blade name translates to night, and he stayed at a place where there was never any sunlight. Like I mentioned earlier, this was Enma influencing Zoro's behavior. I just don't get why Zoro would say he'll become the king of hell. It just doesn't make sense. I believe Enma made Zoro say this because Zoro is a more compatible host than Odin. Zoro and Enma are more synchronized with each other than Odin was with Enma. Let's break it down. During the Skypiea arc, Zoro said that he didn't believe in God, and that he'd make God bow down to him. Zoro also uses Ashura 9 sword, a technique that also pays homage to a demonic figure. The fact that Zoro has stated that he doesn't bow down to a god, and he uses a demonic 9 sword style, made him worthy of wielding Enma. Much like how Devil Fruit users have to unlock their Devil Fruit's hidden power, I think this is what Zoro has done. By trying to tame Enma, he has physically awoken the entity within the blade. What I'm about to say may be a stretch, but I'm gonna mention it anyway. If you look back at the scene, Zoro's left eye is glowing red. Now, when you fast forward and look at the skeleton's eye, it's also glowing red. I believe this is a small detail that links this hallucination of the skeleton back to the real world. Zoro's fight versus King was not a hallucination, and Zoro's eye was clearly red. This means that this skeleton was indeed something that Zoro actually saw in his consciousness, kind of like how Naruto can see and interact with Kurama inside of his mind. Remember when Zoro took Luffy's pain back at Thriller Bark against Kuma? Well, Oda said Zoro did die, but he got lost on his way to heaven or hell. I'm pretty sure Oda was joking when he said this, but what if Oda came back to that idea? Just like with Sanji's old bounty poster. We all thought it was a joke, but there was actually a character named Duval who turned out to look exactly like Sanji's first bounty poster. So, what if Zoro did die after defeating King for taking too much damage, but he was put in limbo? Limbo is traditionally seen as a state where souls reside if they do not qualify for heaven or hell. It is depicted as a peaceful, neutral place, lacking the joy of heaven, but also devoid of the suffering found in hell. While not universally accepted, limbo represents a middle ground for souls who cannot ascend to heaven or descend to hell. Zoro couldn't go to heaven because he doesn't believe in God, and he couldn't go to hell because Enma won't allow his soul to do so. Enma has the ability to judge where souls go, so I think he brought Zoro back to the surface world because he realizes that Zoro is a strong wielder of the blade. With Zoro as the wielder, Enma can make his dream come true of being the king of hell. Now, this hell may not be the literal hell that we all know of, but it could be a metaphor for something else. Maybe Enma's goal is to be the king of all cursed blades. If all other cursed blades are alive like Enma, then it would make sense to want to be the king of them. And this would also perfectly align Enma and Zoro's goals. For Enma to be the king of cursed blades, Zoro has to be the world's greatest swordsman. This is why Zoro saw Enma. He was deemed worthy of the blade. The impact frame that we saw of Zoro in his fight versus King could very well just be a regular impact frame with no meaning. But I'd say don't be shocked if you see Zoro actually get a synchronized form with Enma in the future. I can't wait to see the true power of Enma in the future. This is the same blade that had two Yonkos worried about its power. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have theory suggestions or thoughts on the video, drop them in the comments. Until next time.